So last week, J.D. Vance was in Boston where he gave a speech to the International Association of Firefighters, one of the largest firefighter union groups here in the United States. And it could not have gone worse for him. And the thing I love the most about it is that the crowd didn't even wait for Vance to actually start speaking before they just tried to boo him off the stage. So we've got a bunch of clips here. Let me show you this first one. This is what happened when J.D. Vance first walked on to the stage. Take a look.
Thank you so much. Well, Semper Fi, guys. We got some, it sounds like we got some fans and some haters. That's okay. Listen to what I have to say here, and I'll make my pitch. I want to first say thank you to Representative Jimenez for the great introduction. It's very kind of you. Thank you for your service.
Now, I'm going to do something very weird right here. And I am actually going to give J.D. Vance a lot of credit. Not credit for walking into hostile territory. Absolutely not. That doesn't count. What I am giving him credit for is that I actually think that he handled that situation at that very moment very well, right? I mean, listen to what he said. He said, sounds like we've got some fans and some haters. That's okay. Listen to what I have to say and I'll make my pitch. That was actually a really good statement. And again, I will give credit where credit is due. If that had happened to Donald Trump, he would have gone ballistic. I mean, a lot of politicians, mostly on the right, would have gone ballistic. J.D. Vance, I will say, handled that moment like a champ. But there's only so much people can take, right? If he thought he was just going to walk out to some cheers and some boos, which is what it was, there were people cheering, and then maybe calm him down and then have a good speech, he was completely wrong. So let's check in and see how the middle of his speech went, right? Did it get any better as he started talking? Well, take a look.
Trump and I are proud to be the most pro-worker Republican ticket in history. And I want to talk about why we're fighting for working people, why we're going to fight for unions and non-union alike. Now
Okay, so at this point, now he's starting to get a little flustered. Now things aren't going so smoothly. Now he's starting to get a little annoyed, trying to hammer home these points about how horrible these darn old immigrants are, and the crowd doesn't want to hear it. They're sick and tired of this same sales pitch from the Republican Party for the last 3 elections. Immigration, earlier this year, at one point, was in fact the top issue for most voters. It's now fallen down to just 13% of voters say it's the top issue. Because Republicans did their whole Icarus thing, where they got a little greedy, they flew a little too close to the sun, made this too much of an issue, telling people how bad immigration is and you can't walk across the street without getting assaulted by an immigrant. And at that point, when they got too extreme with it, most of the public looked around and they said, well, wait a minute. I'm not swamped by immigrants here. I just went to the grocery store and wasn't shot. Like, what they're telling me is not actually true, apparently. And the voters started to slowly wake up to the issue, realizing that it actually is not as bad as the Republicans are trying to make it out to be. And so that crowd is a reflection of that. Their response is a reflection of that. J.D. Vance is supposed to be talking about, I don't know, anything. And instead, he's just talking about how much he and Donald Trump don't like people who aren't natural-born citizens. So, didn't go over that well. And then there was another funny part where he tried to cast himself and Donald Trump as the normal people. You know, we're the party of everyday average Americans. He said this. Let me read this to you. He goes, it says a lot who each party chose to put up on that stage. At the Republican convention, we were featuring everyday American workers. And of course, we had Hulk Hogan. And while it's tempting, and I'm sure it would make some big headlines, don't worry, everybody. I'm not going to try to take off my shirt here. He told a joke about doing a Hulk Hogan, and nobody made a sound. Not a single sound, not a laugh, not a chuckle, not even a boo. He's sitting there like, oh, I mean, we had Hulk Hogan at our convention, and he's like stuttering and stammering. He's like, if everybody, I'm not gonna take my shirt off, but I mean, he was like half a second away from pulling a Jeb Bush, like, please clap. Not a word. So his one joke that he had, that I am sure he rehearsed behind the scenes, like ad nauseum, just totally fell flat. Did not resonate with that crowd at all, so he just kind of looked pathetic. But let me go ahead and tear apart that point as well. He claims, we had average everyday American workers. No, you didn't. You didn't. You had people like Carrie Lake. You had people like Matt Gaetz, who scared the hell out of everybody with his creepy Botox that he got that day. You did have Hulk Hogan. You had Kid Rock. You had J.D. Vance, which is you, of course. You're not going to mention that. You had a failed reality TV star, convicted felon, as your nominee. Y'all are not average people. J.D. Vance is actually trying to sell a billionaire that had a golden toilet as an average person to a group of real, average, everyday heroes. Okay? Those firefighters are not just your average, everyday, workaday folks. They are heroes. And I trust me, I'm speaking from personal experience with firefighters, and I'm talking personal experience within the last week and a half. My house caught on fire. It was pretty nasty. It was terrifying. And I got to see firefighters up close in person, just barging into the home to put the fire out, barging into the, lot next door that was completely ablaze. These are brave individuals, but they're also real people. They have nothing in common with a man who sits upon a golden toilet. And for J.D. Vance to try to cast him and Donald Trump in the same light as those people is nothing short of insulting. So anyway, like I said, we got more though. How did it end? Did the crowd ever get better for J.D. Vance? Well, you be the judge. Here it is.
We're going to fight for you whether we get it or not. God bless you guys, and thank you.
So no, whether it's the beginning, the middle, or the end, the crowd didn't like it. But maybe, you're saying, Farron, maybe this is just not a political crowd, right? Maybe they just didn't want to hear any politics at all. Do we have something else to compare it to? I mean, did Tim Walz show up and give a speech and everybody loved it to actually show that they do prefer Democrats over Republicans? Well, I'm glad I asked myself that question on your behalf, because yes, that is exactly what happened. The day before J.D. Vance gave his speech to the group, Minnesota Governor and Kamala Harris's running mate Tim Walz also gave a speech to the group. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz pointed out that to the IAFF the day before, during a much friendlier reception, that Trump had blocked overtime benefits, opposed efforts to raise the minimum wage, and proposed slashing federal fire service budgets. Walz warned that under Project 2025, Trump would continue to weaken unions. So Tim Walz spoke. He got a warm reception. He wasn't greeted with boos. There's no video clips floating around of him making jokes that nobody laughed at. So it's not that the crowd's not political. It's just that they didn't like what J.D. Vance had to say. Hi, everyone. This here is little Athena. And Athena would like to know why you haven't subscribed to Fair and Balanced yet. So please, don't let Athena down. Subscribe today.